When Nissan first introduced the Murano nameplate to the States all the way back in 2002, this was a big deal for Nissan because it essentially launched the crossover era for the company. This was the brand's first unibody SUV, and it was also the first vehicle to introduce their newly developed Xtronic CVT transmission. Now, over the years, the Murano actually grew to become one of the brand's most popular models, with sales approaching nearly 100,000 units annually. However, for the third generation, it really got old, and there were times that a lot of enthusiasts questioned if Nissan would even keep the Murano in the lineup. Well, thankfully for 2025, we are seeing an all-new fourth generation. As you can see, it's a comprehensive redesign. We're talking about all-new sheet metal on the outside, a brand new powertrain under the hood with a turbo 4-cylinder and a 9-speed auto replacing the old V6 CVT combo, and a look that really stands out that also adds a lot more technology that the previous generation was just sorely lacking. So as you can see, this week, Nissan has loaned us the latest 2025 Murano in the fully loaded Platinum spec. And the big question I want to answer, for those of you who've been waiting a long time for an all-new Murano, has Nissan made enough changes to make this model relevant once again? Stay tuned to find out. So before we start talking about the all-new sheet metal for this fourth generation Murano, let me go ahead and pop the hood and show you guys the all-new powertrain that you're gonna find underneath here. Now, for the longest time, the Murano had a V6 naturally aspirated engine with a CVT. However, for 2025, both of those options are gone, replaced by the same 2-liter turbo from the Altima, but unlike the Altima, which has a CVT, this has a new 9-speed automatic. Now, if you guys are familiar with the latest Nissan engine family, you'll know this engine as the VC Turbo, which means it has a variable compression turbocharger. It also has direct injection. It's a double overhead cam, 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, making 241 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers are essentially flip-flop versus what the old V6 had. The V6 had 260 horsepower, but 240 pound-feet of torque. So we have less horsepower, but we have more torque. And because it's a turbocharged engine, the mid-range is just stronger. We have that torque figure spread across a broader torque range, so that's going to give you better acceleration in around town driving, which is going to matter mostly to people who tend to buy these things. Now, you can still take your pick between either front or all-wheel drive. If you guys go for the top trims, the top 2 trims come standard with the company's latest all-wheel drive system. They're intelligent all-wheel drive. And like I said earlier, the Xtronic CVT is dead, replaced by a conventional 9-speed automatic transmission with torque converter. Fuel economy for this 4-cylinder engine is rated at 21 in the city and 27 on the highway. That MPG figure is the same, even if you guys go for the base front-wheel drive model. This has roughly an 18.7-gallon fuel tank with 23 mpg combined, and running on regular fuel, you should be doing around 400-ish miles of range on a full tank. Now, Nissan doesn't quote a 0 to 60 time. We got 6.7 seconds. When we first tested this vehicle out in Tennessee, its top speed should be around 130-ish miles an hour. Sadly, even though the Murano is a mid-size SUV, it only can tow a maximum of 1,500 pounds. That is a weak number. You're going to be looking at the competitive set if you need to tow more. Even Toyota's Crown Signia, which is a hybrid, offers more towing at 2,700 pounds. Sadly, Nissan does not offer the Murano with a hybrid powertrain, although the company has confirmed they are working on a new generation of hybrids. We have no idea if it's going to show up in the Murano at some point. As this vehicle sits, it weighs in at just over 4,200 pounds. So again, it's heavy, but it's not the heaviest vehicle that you'll find in the segment. But let's go ahead and close up the hood here and talk about the exterior styling. Now, when I first had a chance to see this vehicle out in Tennessee a few months ago, I actually thought the styling was certainly instantly recognizable as a Murano. It certainly introduces some new details for Nissan. You can see the look is very controversial, but also a little bit Japanese weird in its look. It's really going to be a love it or hate it, for at least for me. You can see this color that I'm showing you, the vehicle is painted in, is called Aurora Blue Metallic. It's a really beautiful color that's exclusive to the SL and the Platinum grade. You can see all Muranos come standard with the company's full LED headlights, which have kind of like a cube projector style. There's triple LEDs. You can see it's got that classic design, which a lot of cars are doing with the split headlight design, which has the daytime running light and turn signals down here in the lower portion that kind of is integrated into the V-Motion grille. There's a separate portion for the headlights along with this area here where it's painted black that spells out Murano. I don't love this styling element here. I think it's certainly a little bit weird, but again, if you guys like it, you want it to stand out, that's certainly going to do so here. Obviously, you've got the new Nissan logo with the white outline. It comes with the full 360 camera. If you guys go for the SL trims and up, you'll have that 360 camera. Down here, you can see there's no fog lights. Surprisingly, you do have well-integrated parking sensors, the radar sensor for the Nissan ProPilot 1.1, which is not their newest system, but it does offer, of course, adaptive cruise and automatic emergency braking as standard. But overall, I definitely think there's room in the lineup for Nissan to kind of do like a sportier looking version of the Murano. Again, you can get it in only SV, which is the base, SL, or this fully loaded Platinum grade. Now, the platform underneath for the Murano is a heavily revised version of the one that's underpins the 3rd generation, but as you can see, overall length stays pretty much the same. This is a mid-size SUV, so it has a 111.1-inch wheelbase, a 192.9-inch overall length. It's overall around a half an inch longer than the previous generation, same wheelbase, but it's around 78 inches wide, so it's 2.6 inches wider and around a half an inch taller than the previous generation. So again, that's going to give the Murano a more interesting or more sportier stance with slightly more interior space. You can see, surprisingly, Nissan decided to forego any kind of that plastic cladding that you see. Instead, you kind of have like a slight interesting look here for the wheel arch trim. I love how it's got that full paint finish. And then if you guys go for the Platinum, this is the only trim that gives you a 21-inch wheel. All of the Muranos come with a 20-inch wheel. This is a 21. It's riding on a 255 by 50 R21 Bridgestone Alenza all-season tire. These wheels, I don't love the look of them. I have to be honest there. It's a machine wheel, but as you can see, this area here is a plastic aero cover, which I honestly would probably want to pull this cover off and see how it looks underneath there. I couldn't actually do that without taking the wheel off. You have an all-independent suspension, of course, no adaptive dampers, and you'll have all-disc brakes. Nissan says this model has around just over 8 inches of ground clearance, which is actually a pretty good amount compared to something like the Toyota Crown Signia, which is this car's main rival. You can see the black trim kind of carries over along the side sill, which you also get a black painted side mirror. The side mirrors also have integrated turn signals, cameras around them, and they are power folding, but only on the Platinum grade. This Platinum grade also includes the two-tone color combination with the black roof, and I also love the fact that it has a panoramic sunroof. That's standard if you guys go for the SL trims and up. That panoramic sunroof also opens to vent air. That's something that the Toyota Crown Signia does not do, so I like the fact that Nissan at least gives you that. You can see the profile here from this angle is definitely much more curvy, so Nissan definitely didn't want to go with like a boxy design for the Murano. It's never been boxy. It's always been kind of like a sleeker, curvaceous design. But I definitely think it looks better from this angle here. I think from the rear here, it gives me almost like, I want to say Lexus or Infiniti vibes. It definitely looks more like an upscale premium SUV, which I love. You can see the taillights have a full LED design with that signature LED light bar, the full LED light bar that cuts across in the Nissan logo. You have LED turn signals, LED taillights, and reverse lights. It boldly spells out Murano at the back with typical dark plated badging here you can see with the all-wheel drive and the Platinum badge. All-wheel drive is standard on the Platinum grade, only the base SV offers it. You can see the roof line here has kind of like a teardrop shape. You do have a slightly integrated spoiler back here. And then if you look underneath the rear spoiler there, you can see cleverly hidden away is the rear window wiper. It's tucked very deeply in there. You can see the third brake light is visible, but it's a pretty subtle rear spoiler. Surprisingly, no visible exhaust tips. That's something the previous generation used to have, but instead you have exhausts that are hidden with well-integrated parking sensors. And then in terms of the cargo area, there's a little button here above the Nissan logo, or in the middle of it. You can push that, it'll open up the cargo space. You can see this vehicle does come with a power liftgate that is hands-free. And even though the Murano is roughly about 10 inches longer than the Rogue, this is where things get weird because the Murano actually offers less cargo space versus the Rogue. You're looking at around 33 cubic feet of total cargo space, which is fine. This pretty much matches what I saw last in the Toyota Crown Signia. You can see the floor is nicely finished with this flat cargo floor. There's a little bit of storage here to the side. If you lift up this little cargo floor, you can see there's a temporary spare tire with your necessary tools, a little bit of underfloor storage. So again, there's a pretty good amount of space. If you want to fold down the third or the second row seats, you can basically do so from back here by pulling on this lever over here. I like how it pretty much folds flat and it gives you a completely flat load floor. Nissan says you have around 63.5 cubic feet of total cargo space with all the seats folded. That's pretty good, although, again, the Toyota Crown Signia offers around 68 cubic feet, and if you look at something like the Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport, that offers around 77 cubic feet of space, and then, of course, there's the Hyundai Santa Fe with its boxy shape that offers like well over 80 cubic feet of space. So even though the Murano is a lot longer than the Rogue, it actually offers less cargo space. I think the Rogue offers just over 70 cubic feet, so kind of keep that in mind. That teardrop curvaceous silhouette definitely eats into the maximum amount of total cargo space. Now moving on to the interior of the redesigned 4th generation Murano. Before we get inside, let me show you guys what the key fob looks like. You can see this is the current and newest key fob from Nissan. It's kind of an evolution of the old fob, which I actually really like the design. This is a nice change from it. You can see it's got the new Nissan logo. It has your usual buttons here for remote start, for lock, unlock, power open for the liftgate, and a panic function. I don't believe Nissan offers a phone as a key option, although I think you should be able to have access to the smartphone app if you guys are an owner of the vehicle. But regardless, as you put the key fob on, you can see the door handle is a traditional pull style. There's a button on the outside. If you touch that button, that will lock the door for you. It'll also electrically fold the mirrors only on the Platinum trim. This vehicle does offer a walkaway lock and unlock feature. You can turn that feature on and off if you'd like in the settings. If you want to unlock it without it on, however, you have to touch the back, or you have to touch the button again, and that will unlock the door for you. Now, looking at the interior, you can see my particular test car has the Aurora Blue metallic outside with the Titan Blue semi-aniline premium leather interiors. You can see this is a quilted semi-aniline leather that only comes with the Platinum trim. The other trims will have a leatherette, so a fake leather. This is the only trim with the real leather, and I have to say it looks really nice. I love the diamond stitching here, the quilting, the contrast stitching. These seats also adjust in 12 different ways for the driver's side, 10 different ways for the passenger side. It also includes a 2-person memory, and these seats are also heated, ventilated, and massaging. So that function is only available on the Platinum. The SL will include heated seats, but if you want cooled seats, you have to go for this trim, which also throws in the massage seats. The massaging seats work okay. It's nothing like what you'll find in some actual luxury brands, but it's nice that it's there. You can see the upper door panel has a really nice leather stitch area here with real stitching and contrast stitching as well. Nice and padded as well. You can see this area here. This is called the Murano glass trim. You get it on the SL trims and up. It looks nice with, of course, the ambient lighting, the multicolor ambient lighting that's available on the SL trims and up. You can see there's a nice padded leather here. Along with some piano black plastic trim. Window controls, they are one touch for all 4, and they have a nice high quality feel. This is Nissan's latest switchgear, which feels really high quality, which is really good. You have hard touch plastic down here, and I have to say my test car is a pre-production car, but for a pre-production car, the build quality seems to be really good, and I love the fact that it has just, again, very traditional layout for the buttons for the seat control. That controls your massaging seats. There's 3 different types of intensities. So it all makes a great first impression. Now, as I get inside with around 8 inches of ground clearance, it has a really easy step-in height. And then when I shut the door has a pretty solid sounding thunk. Remember, this is built off of a heavily modified version of the previous generation's platform. Now, starting the vehicle up, you can see start-stop button is located here on the dash. And because this is not a hybrid or a mild hybrid, it has a traditional starter noise, and then all Muranos come with the dual 12.3-inch display. So you can see you have a fully digital instrument cluster here, which is slightly customizable. And then in the center here, you have a 12.3-inch Nissan Connect head unit here with their latest software. It has Google built in with embedded GPS, which again is run by Google. However, if you want the Google built in, you have to go for the SL trims and up. The SVs will have the CarPlay integration, which is wireless. My phone's not connected right now, but it doesn't have the Google built in. This system here, you guys have seen me show it to you before in like some Infiniti products. You can see there's your massage function there if you want to access that. There's lumbar refreshing and relaxing with, again, 3 different types of intensities. It's not the best massage in the world, but it's still really cool how it's there. And you can see the Platinum includes a heads-up display. In terms of the materials, you can see this upper portion here has some soft touch materials here with the nice real leather stitching. The real leather continues over here as well, where it's actually padded. This upper portion here is a slightly padded material, but you're never really going to touch that. The steering wheel, again, looks like it was lifted out of the Ario. It surprisingly has a power tilt telescoping function, which gives you a good amount of adjustability and range. It's a 2-spoke wheel, which is really comfortable on those longer drives. It just looks a little bit strange, maybe even a little futuristic. It also has kind of a flat bottom and a flat top design, which is nice. You have paddles on the wheel to control the 9-speed auto. This is going to control your Nissan Pro Pilot 1.1, along with your different controls here to, again, adjust how you want this little screen to look. You can kind of change the way that looks, and you can even put your like GPS and your functions there for your driver assistance tech. You can also go into here and you can also change the way that the gauge display looks. So if you go to customize display, you can change the meter view. You can go to like a, I guess, a more relaxed view here where it kind of gives you, I guess, a bigger view of whatever you want to put here. So this is definitely preferred if you guys want something that is a little more minimalistic. I think it actually looks good as well. You can even change the background of this to kind of show a live view of the sunset or the sunrise. That changes, of course, based on the time of the day. So that's all a really nice touch. You can see the ambient lighting is also really heavily apparent. You can actually see it very well at night. It's surprisingly decent, so that's something that the Murano has never had in the past. It certainly elevates the interior to a new level, especially at night. I also like this little panel here, which has these touch capacitive buttons. It also almost looks like it's a real wood trim, but I believe this is just a fake wood, but it almost has the texture of wood. Again, these offer haptic feedbacks when you want to adjust the climate control function. You can feel the vibration when you tap that to give you confirmation. There's some piano black plastic here, a big volume knob, your hazard switches here. This is a track forward and reverse button there for your skipping songs and whatnot. And then you have a wireless phone charging pad here, along with 2 USB-C charging ports, nice padded leather area over here. And then this controls your 9-speed auto with the push button transmission selector. Put it in reverse, you can see there's your full 360 camera that you get on the SL trims and up. It offers trajectory, distance markers, moving object detection, and cross-traffic braking. So quality and resolution of the screen is good. Technology is good. Like the fact that Nissan makes it a standard on the SL trims and up. Go into drive by pushing that D button there, and you access the manual mode by pushing on that. That goes into the manual mode. You can see your drive mode selector is here. There's 3 modes: Eco, Standard, and Sport. So pretty simple. We'll try them out later on during the driving scene. And then this is your auto start, stop, defeat. Center console area has a pretty good amount of storage with the cup holders and storage here. Additional storage down here, which is pretty nice. I love the Titan blue leather, which looks really good with the blue exterior. Nice and padded center console here. And then if you open this up, you can see it's pretty deep. Actually, it holds all of my camera equipment in there quite nicely, and this is very comfortable. The seats also are made from their zero gravity inspired memory foam seats, which is really nice. They're comfortable and supportive. They hold you in place nicely. And again, this is the only trim to give you real leather. These seats basically look like they were lifted out of an Infiniti. So Nissan, I think, did a great job at making the interior feel a lot more premium. The 10-speaker Bose audio in this car also is pretty decent. It sounds good. It comes standard on the SL trims and up. You get a 6-speaker system if you guys go for the SV trims. You have an auto-dimming rearview mirror here, a woven material for the headliner, along with LED map lighting in here. And again, panoramic sunroof that actually opens up to vent air and tilts is standard on the SL trims and up. No standard sunroof is available, so you either get the pano roof or you don't get the pano roof. You can actually open it up a little bit larger there from its max settings. So really like the fact that this opens. Again, this is a feature that doesn't always or isn't always included on some competitors, and if they do give it to you, they don't actually allow you to open it to vent air. So glove compartment, forgot to show you that, is also huge. It goes into the dash, it's stamped and lined with felt. So overall, the interior offers plenty of storage, high quality materials, finally some decent technology with big upgrades in the screens, and really cool materials, upscale materials. It almost feels like, again, very Infiniti-like in here, but there's not really any real wood. You just have some fake wood here and this kind of Murano glass, which is supposed to look like Venetian glass. Which looks really nice with the ambient lighting. But overall, it's very different. And also keep in mind, if you guys want a lighter interior, they certainly offer that as well. But this blue, I think, is certainly very interesting. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area. I can show you guys the space back here. Now, the Murano, in theory, should have more backseat space versus the smaller Nissan Rogue. And this is where things get weird, because what you're looking at back here is around 36.5 inches of legroom. 36.5 is certainly fine, but the Rogue offers around 2 more inches of legroom, which is weird considering this vehicle is bigger overall. You can see the backseat area is trimmed with the same beautiful materials, real leather stitching here. You have these retractable sunshades. They're manual. That's included on the platinum trims only. The Murano Venetian glass is not carried over into the backseat, but the ambient lighting at least is. You have nice padded leather over here with the same high quality window controls. Down here it's all hard touch plastic, but you do have some nice additional storage. And then you can see that beautiful quilted leather carries over back here with the two-tone look. These seats also, they do fold down like I showed you earlier, but sadly, I don't believe, no, there's no recline function and you can't actually move this seat forward and back. But let's go ahead and hop back here and show you guys what the space is like for somebody my height at 5'7". As I shut the door, you can see the back seat is actually pretty darn roomy. So even though the numbers aren't very impressive, this is actually really good in the real world. There's plenty of foot space. This is my driving position. The seats offers pretty decent thigh support as well. You can easily sit back here and cross your legs, which is nice. You have rear seat air vents along with 3-level heated seats and 2 USB-C charging ports. Only the Platinum gives you the heated seats back here, so keep that in mind. You can see only one storage area here, map pocket in the driver or the passenger seat. You can see headrests back here are not adjustable, but the center one is. If you pull this down, you can see there's an armrest with 2 cup holders and additional storage over here. And then in terms of the headroom space, you can see even with the pano roof, I have a good maybe 2, almost 3 inches of headroom space. So that's pretty darn impressive. There's also a flat floor here, which is nice. So overall, even though on paper the Murano's legroom space isn't great, in the real world, I actually find it to be very comfortable and useful. This feels a little bit nicer versus the last Toyota Crown Signia that I was in fairly recently. So here we are back behind the wheel of the fully redesigned 4th generation Nissan Murano. Like so many other Nissan products, this vehicle was long overdue for a redesign. We've been waiting about a decade for Nissan to finally do it. And of course, they made the redesign with all the changes that I pretty much expected from Nissan, although the one change that I think they should have made was give this vehicle a hybrid powertrain. Nissan, again, promises that they are working on a hybrid, but for now, that V6 engine is gone, replaced by a new 2-liter variable compression turbo 4-cylinder, making 241 horsepower and around 260 pound-feet of torque. The interesting twist here is it's now paired up with a 9-speed automatic transmission. Now, we've had a chance to sample this powertrain combination in something like the Infiniti QX60, although in the Infiniti it makes nearly 30 more horsepower versus this car. The last time we 0 to 60 tested this vehicle out in Tennessee, I believe we got just under 7 seconds, 6.7 if I remember correctly. Let's go ahead and see what we can get here on our usual stretch of road. The vehicle has obviously a full tank of fuel. We have the vehicle in sport mode as well. We'll go ahead and set our 0 to 60 timer here. And then basically, to get the best acceleration, we'll go ahead and we'll try to brake torque it. Although it has start stop, we'll make sure that's off first. All right, we got 6.57 seconds on our first run. 6.57 seconds is slightly quicker versus when I first tested the vehicle out in Tennessee. That also makes this car almost a half a second faster versus the last Toyota Crown Signia that I tested. Remember, the Crown Signia only comes with Toyota's latest hybrid powertrain, which makes around 240 horsepower. This only has 1 more horsepower, but the torque figure is 260. We don't know the torque figure of the Crown Signia because Toyota doesn't quote that time. But 6.57 seconds is pretty respectable, and that 9-speed auto, you know, is a really good transmission in the sense that it just feels like a very conventional drive. There's no droning, there's no holding the revs at high RPMs, although I'm curious because I feel like this powertrain would have been faster with the CVT, but let's try another run here. This time we won't brake torque it, we'll just floor it. The first 1 to second shift feels kind of sluggish. 6.93 seconds there. That's with it more going slightly uphill. The one thing I noticed about this powertrain there is noticeable turbo lag when you first step on the gas. There's a slight hesitation, a slight delay until the tach swings past 2,000 RPM, and that's when the engine kind of wakes up. Now, thankfully, the engine stays pretty smooth. It revs all the way up to 6,000 RPM, and you feel a nice rush of power because, again, this engine has more torque but less horsepower than the old V6, and that increase in torque at a lower RPM and a much broader RPM is going to give this thing a much more quicker feel. You can see, put my foot down there, the mid-range in this thing is just now excellent. The transmission also is relatively quick and snappy at just downshifting and just putting the engine right in the meat of the power brand. The Murano has always been a much more softer driving vehicle, and that trend kind of continues with the new version. Even in sport mode here, there's no adaptive dampers. The steering also feels very light, numb, and devoid of feel. In fact, the body almost feels very wallowy. It's very much uninspiring. I've definitely driven mid-size crossovers in this segment that just feel a lot more sportier to drive. Even Toyota's the Crown Signia feels sportier handling-wise versus the Murano. This just feels kind of like a boat. But the Murano's always been a couch on wheels, and that kind of continues with the case here because this vehicle definitely feels very softly sprung. It's got those NASA-inspired zero-gravity front seats, which I'm sitting here getting a massage. The massage function is okay. It's not what I would say the best massage that I felt in an automotive vehicle with their massaging seats. Put your foot down here. The all-wheel drive system tries to send power to the rear wheels, but again, it's primarily a front-wheel drive system, so you can still feel a little bit of wheel wobble from the torque steer as it tries to appropriate power to the back. It doesn't have any kind of torque vectoring, so again, you're going to find a sportier, more reactive all-wheel drive system from some of its competitors, but it's still very nice, and I like the fact that Nissan puts all-wheel drive as standard on basically the SL trims and above. It's a $1,000 upcharge on the SV trim, the base trim. Let's try another run here without brake torquing it. Again, still kind of soft until about 2,500 RPM. 7.03 seconds there, so brake torquing it does make a difference. There is a noticeable delay there. In most real-world testing, you're probably going to do it in the high 6s, maybe even just over 7 seconds, which I guess is a perfectly acceptable time. But something tells me that if I had a chance to 0 to 60 test the old V6 Murano, it would be faster because that was actually a pretty speedy powertrain. but just driving the vehicle in normal conditions, you can hear the engine, for the most part, stays smooth, but above 5, you start to hear a little bit of coarseness because, again, it's a 4-cylinder. It's not going to be as refined as a 6-cylinder. I'll switch the drive mode here into its standard mode, and you can see the engine quiets down a little bit as the transmission tries to shift to its higher gears a little bit sooner. Instead of holding the gears, the visibility out of the Murano is pretty good. You can see out of the front and the sides pretty well. The rear also has good visibility. Sadly, Nissan doesn't offer a digital camera rearview mirror on this vehicle, which is interesting. I feel like I've seen that before on other Nissan products. This A-pillar is also on the thicker side, but this car also comes with Nissan's ProPilot 1.1. It's technically their older system where it does require you to keep your hands on the wheel. Nissan has their newer system where you can take your hands off the wheel for a few moments, depending on, of course, what kind of road condition you're in. But overall, you know, as a daily driving vehicle, the Murano is still excellent. It's still very comfortable. The driver assistance tech works pretty well. I can see out of the front, the side, visibility is good. The seats are comfortable. It's also pretty quiet in here. My test car that I'm driving is an early pre-production model, and there's not a single squeak and rattle in this interior, which is definitely a surprising thing. Usually these pre-production cars I drive tend to be rattle traps, but not this car. It shows that Nissan is working on improving their build quality, which is a good thing. Nissan kind of, you know, used to be really good, and then they kind of fell behind the competition, and now I feel like they're trying to kind of claw their way back up to the top. Really, what would make the Murano more interesting is like a sportier version or a hybrid version. I mean, yes, the Murano's never really been sporty, but I think there's room for it, especially if Nissan wants to attract a younger buyer into their showrooms for their typical Murano buyer. But in terms of fuel efficiency, this 4-cylinder turbo is rated at 21 in the city and 27 on the highway. Now, in my week's worth of driving in mostly city, I was averaging just under 21 mpg, so just over 20 miles to the gallon. On the highway, I could do around 26 was what I was getting. So not great fuel economy figures, especially considering this is a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo. I just had the new Crown Signia, and that will easily do like 33 on the highway and over 40 on in the city. So that's kind of where the hybrid portion of the Crown Signia is much more appealing, although the Murano kind of gives you more of a traditional SUV seating height. And if you guys, you know, prefer the Nissan look and feel, the massaging seats is something that's kind of unique. You can't get that in the Crown. Also, the panoramic sunroof in this vehicle, it actually opens up, which is a nice touch. They both have dual 12.3-inch displays, so most of the infotainment software in here, you know, is pretty good. It's got Google built in, but I actually think I might prefer Toyota's system a little bit more versus the Nissan system, but that's kind of a personal preference. This is still actually very good. It's their latest software, of course, and it works fairly nicely. So overall, I'm happy that Nissan gave the Murano a full redesign. After spending a week with it, it's still a very comfortable and competent midsize SUV. I'm struggling to find reasons to choose this over the Rogue. A fully loaded Rogue, a Rogue Platinum basically gives you more interior space, more cargo space, more rear seat space. You know, it kind of gives you the same semi-aniline leather. You don't get the massaging seats, obviously, in the Rogue, and the infotainment system, I believe, is the older setup. But the Murano is around $10,000 more than the Rogue. So yes, you are getting a vehicle that's bigger, but not necessarily bigger on the inside. So what you really are banking on is you like the styling of this car, you like the increase in luxury and technology that the Murano gives you, because this is very much Infiniti-like. But at the same time, I'm wondering why Nissan decided to, you know, offer the Murano as a larger vehicle, but then not make it have more interior space than the smaller Rogue. That just doesn't really make sense to me. But other than that, once you get past that, the Murano is still very much a pleasant vehicle to live with. And if you guys, you know, are unsure whether you want to buy a luxury car, this vehicle very much will blur that line between mainstream and luxury. Now, with just over 19,000 units sold in America last year, the Nissan Murano certainly has had its fair share of struggles. In fact, that's a far cry versus the nearly 100,000 units that the company used to do about a decade ago. In fact, compared to 2023, sales were nearly cut in half. Nissan used to do between 30 to 40,000 Muranos annually, so I'm a little surprised to see that they sold so little vehicles in 2024, but that probably was because they were also doing a model year changeover. So obviously, with this new version just hitting dealership showrooms, it should obviously increase interest in the Murano if you guys are looking at this vehicle. And after spending a full week with the redesigned 4th generation, there are still plenty of things that I like about this car. It's very smooth, it's very comfortable, it's still very much a couch on wheels that offers a lot of luxury and technology that you expect from a more premium brand, along with a look on the outside. The new Powertrain, the 4-cylinder turbo, delivers solid performance, 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds, but again, its fuel economy really lags behind some of its hybrid rivals like the Santa Fe hybrid or the Toyota Crown Signia, so kind of keep that in mind. If you guys guys are hoping this offers more interior space than a Rogue. Sadly, it doesn't. So you're really buying the Murano for its design, for its luxury and its technology, and you don't necessarily need the extra space, which is kind of the reason why some of these other mid-size crossovers exist. They're designed to basically be a more premium offering instead of versus like a larger offering. Although I think Nissan should have gone the route of offering this as a larger vehicle on the inside versus the Rogue. The ride and handling is still very comfortable. It's just not very sporty. I do think Nissan needs to work on offering a hybrid option to expand the appeal and maybe offer a sportier version with more power to kind of, again, attract a younger buyer into Murano showrooms. Although, again, it seems to be doing relatively well for Nissan in terms of an empty nester customer. Now, if you guys are looking to buy the new Nissan Murano, these are at your local Nissan dealerships now, and pricing starts at just over $40,000, just around $40,500. It's not that much more expensive versus the previous generation. That's for a front-wheel drive model. If you guys want all-wheel drive in the SV, you have to basically add $1,000. Now, if you guys want to step it up to the SL, I highly recommend it for the pano sunroof, the heated seats, the heated steering wheel, the 360 camera, the Bose stereo, of course, the memory seats. That's going to cost you around $5,000 extra, but if you want to go to the platinum grade, it's another $3,000 extra on top of that. Now, of course, my test car has a few accessories on it with the two-tone paint color and the destination charge, and you're looking at just over $55,000. I know 55 grand kind of puts it in luxury car territory. It's around $5,000 more expensive versus the last Crown Signia Limited that I tested, and I have to say, I think I actually might prefer the Crown Signia. You can also, for the price of this vehicle, get a Hyundai Santa Fe Hybrid, which offers a third row. It offers more interior space. You could also look at something like the upcoming Honda Passport, which is a lot boxier and a lot more rugged. There's also the Subaru Outback. So there's a lot of choices out there, including the Kia Sorento as well. So Nissan has definitely an uphill battle for them, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do to expand the appeal of the Murano. Again, I think there's room for a hybrid, there's room for a sportier variant, and I also think that Nissan needs to do something with the interior space. It's just not as big as I expected it to be, especially considering how much larger this is compared to the Rogue. But again, if you guys are interested in purchasing this vehicle, $55,000 gets you a fully loaded version here, but I think the sweet spot is probably the SL trim, where you can get that in the mid to upper $40,000 range. With all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 Nissan Murano and the Platinum trim. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.